my lovely people, and welcome back to the channel. So you guys, Ghana is in the center of the world for a reason. Currently, one of the famous TV station in America, MSNBC, is currently discussing Ghana, and one of the more focus on the discussion today is that why is Ghana centered for American returns and all that. And a lot of them are currently coming out to say the reason why they choose to retire in Ghana than to retire in America. And these have actually been the topic, and this video is currently trending. So we're going to be checking out videos of people reacting, and American TV station reacting about Ghana. That is why we say Ghana is in the center of the world for a reason. Nigerians will not relate. So we'll check out these videos together. If you're just seeing me for the first time, I'm Lilian. Please do well by liking this video, subscribe, and share. Let's check out these videos together.
We have a very unique relationship with America. Stolen from our home countries, our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears watered this very soil. We built this country for free, and in return have been denied basic human rights. Still, against all odds, we found a way to live, love, and thrive. More frequent, many of us are asking, where is our Wakanda, a place where we are welcomed and loved? Joining me now, Washington Post columnist Karen Attia. She focuses on international affairs, culture, and human rights issues. Roland Martin is back with me, host of the hashtag Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show, and Tiffany Drayton, journalist and expat. She's also the author of Black American Refugee, Escaping the Narcissism of the American Dream. Woo chow, we got a lot to get to. So Karen, I'm going to start with you. Your op-ed actually sparked this that you wrote in the Washington Post, which I thought was so great. So listen, I hear all of you. I think all of you make a really good point. But my question is, why should we flee instead of staying and continuing on in this centuries-long battle? Because when I think about what my ancestors went through, no matter how they try to make me feel, this is my home. And my instinct is to stand and fight, and if we must die, die fighting for our home that our ancestors built. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a good point, and again, I want to state very clearly, I am coming at this also as someone whose parents are from West Africa, are from Ghana. And so sort of standing in that positionality there. Honestly, Tiffany, I think what is interesting and important to note is that we're living in a time where people have a choice, and I think it's a very individual and a very personal choice. I grew up in Texas as well. I feel that torn feeling about everything that's going on, everything that's happening in America. But I cannot lie to you, and as I'm speaking to you from Ghana, that there is a sense of peace. There's a sense of feeling like you can literally sort of breathe. There is nothing to undermine the psychic kind of relief when you see people on TV here who look like you, when you see people on the news and the media here who look like you, and when you see you're able to come here and see where a lot of the traditions of the African American traditions and culture and food and dance, you can see it and feel it here. So I empathize with people who make choices either way, but I think I wrote that piece to situate it in a true history of African American civil rights leaders from W.E.B. Du Bois, who spent his latter years here in Ghana.
That's right.
A lot of people have. Nina Simone wrote about her time in Liberia. Maya Angelou actually spent a good amount of time in Ghana and helped contribute to, internationalist movements for civil rights. So I think for me, it's more so opening up people's imaginations that the world is really ours.
Right, exactly.
Where we want and where we're loved and appreciated. And again, I don't want to sugarcoat this. It's not necessarily a utopia here, but
right, of course,
it's just to put that seed in people's minds that there are places where we can feel
welcome and at home. I got it. Tiffany, I have to say, I love your name. I want to ask you, because when I think about leaving this country, I'm curious, how does that work? What does it look like? Because you have to think about things like being able to make a living, having the proper documentation, healthcare systems. If you have children, what does schooling look like for them? You actually did this and wrote all about it in your amazing book. So talk us through the logistics. Like, what does this, for people watching saying, you know what, that's it, I'm getting out of here. What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a really, really, really demanding task in that.
Okay, you guys, I don't know why a lot of people don't still believe, like other African country, don't still believe that Ghana is a savior of, of Africa. Currently, Americans are choosing to come into Ghana because they feel at home. Yes, not because Ghana is actually giving them free citizenship, but because of what they feel. Like, let me give instance. If you're in a house where you are not comfortable and they are giving you everything that you need, no matter the kind of food they give to you, you can never stay in that house. But they are comfortable with Ghana, and that is why they are choosing to come back in Ghana. Imagine a whole big TV station, one of the biggest TV station in America. Do you know these are the number third, like the number three when you are counting big TV stations in America? This is the number two. We have Fox, we have BBC, and then we have this channel. They are discussing Ghana as a country, and you can literally see that a lot of Americans are choosing to run back to Ghana for their retirement. And you guys, I'm just wondering, what is it in Ghana that these guys, like, they are seeing that even Ghanaians are not seeing? Hey, let's continue watching this video, okay?
I have 2 kids, so I have to always think about my kids at the forefront. And I've even learned at this point, moving your kids out of the country, if they have a parent that's in the United States of America, requires a court process. It requires all types of documentation. So there's so much to think about. And primarily, I would say everyone must think about their emotional and psychological well-being. And if you can go to a place where you feel freer, where you feel more embraced, where you feel as if you have better rights, better access to things like healthcare. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, where healthcare is actually just a universal right. So you can show up to the hospital and to the doctor and get health care. So these are things that you have to think about before you make big moves, right? And everyone has their own point of research and getting access to where they're going to get that information from. And ultimately, it's like we have to, if we're motivated primarily by our psychological well-being and feeling free, we're going to find the energy to do all that research and make a move ultimately.
Well, Roland, I mean, I think the unique thing about both of our fellow panelists with Karen and Tiffany is they had, a first-generation connection to these countries. You traveled to Ghana during the year of the return in 2019. We saw all your fabulous videos and pictures that you were posting, flooded our timelines with them. With envy, I watched all of them. Talk to me about how it felt going back there as a descendant of the enslaved and making that pilgrimage back to where our ancestral stories begin.
Well, it's very interesting because I have on my maternal, paternal side, they actually migrated from Haiti. And then, of course, I have my American descendants of slaves on my other 3 grandparents' side. And it is a completely different feeling. Every time I've been there, I've been to the continent 3 times, and every time I take a photo with my feet actually touch the soil as soon as I get off the plane. And it is a totally different feeling. It is one of ease. And I think how you set it up, I think we actually need to set it up differently. And that is this here. White folks move all around the world. There are people who are moving to Costa Rica. There are people who move to France. There are people who are moving to Italy. And so I think what has to happen is we have to expand the perspective of African Americans and say, you don't actually have to stay here. And so it is a different feel in terms of when I was traveling there. And I think also what we have to confront is that for many of us as African Americans, we have been the victims of white supremacy in terms of how American media has positioned the continent of Africa in our minds. Oh my God. People were like, okay, what about plumbing? What about electricity? I was like, y'all, seriously? And so we have to understand that I was in Liberia in February. This is the 200th anniversary of the first free folks traveling to Liberia to create that particular country. That country was far more advanced prior to the Civil War in 1980. They're trying to rebuild it. But it is the opportunity for us to also expand economic opportunities opportunities. We will have to also look at your money. John, Brian and I were talking about this here. Study how much money you have and how much further it may go in other countries based upon the value of their money. And so there are opportunities there, which is why I did that 9-part docuseries. It's on the Black Star Network, so we can show people this is the reality, and as opposed to your perception of what Ghana or Senegal or Nigeria or Kenya is.
Right. Well, this is a conversation. I have more questions about this, so don't go anywhere because we're going to continue this conversation on the other side. All right, my guests are back with me to discuss the growing number of African Americans leaving the United States to escape racism. So, Karen, over 5,000 people have made Ghana their home. Black folks left America and went and took up residence in Ghana. Something that I'm interested, though, when you kind of erase the fact that you're not a minority, you know, like when everybody looks like you, there are a whole new set of issues, and like what a relief it is to, you know, deal with a new set of issues. Sometimes it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in another, but it is a different kind of peace and relief. I wonder, could there be a scenario in which Black people who have the means are moving, you know, to different countries, particularly in Ghana and Africa? Could we be perceived as the gentrifiers in that case? That we are coming, disrupting their way of life? Yeah, let's talk about it. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, there's definitely that slight tension for sure, especially in the age of social media. I mean, thinking of the year of return, how, you know, especially like, you know, wealthy Black celebrities splashing their fancy sort of stays here, whereas many people here in Ghana are still living with huge amounts of inequality and huge amounts of poverty. So I think that is a very real thing. That being said, I agree with what Roland said in the previous segment. It's about sort of expanding all of our imaginations about what is possible to be Black in this world. And I think there are opportunities. We're already seeing it maybe out in culture, in music, and these sort of ways that cross culturally across the diaspora, whether it's hip hop, Afro beats, we're seeing these exchanges and we're seeing these collaborations. And I really think the opportunity to travel and move and live and have exchanges is really part of, hopefully, you know, what will help, you know, honestly, all of us
right,
rise.
Exactly. I want to bring Tiffany back in the conversation because you've done this, Tiffany. I'm just really curious for people watching. What is the very first step? You talked in general about things, but right now, the first step for somebody who says, "I want to explore leaving this country and taking up residence elsewhere, not for a visit but to live." What's the first step they need to take?
Absolutely. I would say the first step for most Americans is a passport, because sadly many Americans don't have a passport, and that goes to Roland's point about not having the imagination to think that there's somewhere else that they can live. So embracing the idea of living elsewhere, getting that passport, starting to travel and figuring out where exactly makes you feel at home, where it gives you that sense of, okay, this is where I can live. That's ultimately the first step. And then beyond that, in terms of the immigration process, the second step for me, I would say, get an online job. You know, there's so many opportunities right now that you can make money online, and that opens up the world. It becomes like your oyster, because all of a sudden you can live in so many different places and still have access to that US dollar, which ultimately is going to be very useful to you no matter where you live.
That's a really good point. The passport and then figuring out. Go right ahead, Roro, jump in.
I want to answer the question you asked Karen. Do not be the arrogant ass American. Learn to ingratiate yourself into the culture. Learn about the culture. Look, it's some highfalutin rich places in Ghana. I actually showcased it. Same thing in Nigeria and other places. But don't be the arrogant American. Don't go there looking down upon people. Look, if you study the history of Liberia, the tensions have been there since it started, because you're the indigenous people, and you had people who came from the United States who brought not the U.S. way of thinking. And so the reading I've been doing and the discussion I had there have been amazing. But that's the first thing. And stop acting like you're going to find the same situation that you have in Houston or Chicago or Charlotte or Atlanta there. And so understand these are still countries that are increasingly developing, but you're not going to have the same necessary comforts. Don't sit here, oh my God, the food. No, learn to not be the arrogant American. That's the first thing.
I think that's such good advice. Do not be the arrogant ass American. Very poetic words from Roland Martin. I think you all have given us like something to think about because I know a lot of people, Roland and I are in a group chat together, and there are so many times we're all like, let's get the F out of here. And you all have presented somewhat of a roadmap to that as an option. So thank you so much, Karen Ati.
Hey guys, you could say what she said. She said, if you want to go to a country in Africa that is similar to what you get in America, then you have to be in Ghana, which means, according to her, the one thing she actually look out for is the hospitality, is the hospital, when it comes to hospital, do they have good facilities so that when life happens, they will have where to run to for treatment. And according to her, the Ghana have all the qualities that they need, and the hospitality, the people, the food, like you guys. And you see, this is one thing that a lot of Ghanaians are telling Nigerians, that you just have to make your country running like this. One thing is, Americans have stability of light. Like, they don't even cut their light. They don't take. There's nothing like lights out in Ghana. There's nothing like lights out. So there's a whole lot of good comparison between Ghana and America, and that is why you see a lot of Americans are choosing Ghana, like the hospitality, the people, the food, the places, the country itself. Like, what is it giving? And they're also opting for a remote jobs. Like, you can be in your house in Ghana and be doing your remote job in America. So a lot of Americans are saying that if anything happens, if there's anything like WAR, they are going to run back to Ghana. People are choosing to run back to Ghana. As in Nigeria, can you, as a Nigeria, choose to run back to your country if you have opportunity to be in Ghana when it comes to WAR? Or can you do that? So when we talk about Ghana being in the center of the world for a reason, there's a reason God puts Ghana in the center of the world. Please, I know a lot of Ghanaians will not understand when people make this kind of reaction, remarks on Ghana, but please, it is just absolutely the truth. This is what they feel, and this is what they have expressed in the motherland, Ghana. Let me know your thoughts on the comment section. Motherland for a reason. So if you're just seeing me for the first time, I'm Lilian. Please do well by liking this video, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much. I'll see you in my next one.